Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of the Growing Farms Podcast with your host, Troy Bishop, the Grass Whisperer, and me, John Suscovich. On today's episode, Troy and I talk about what keeps us up at night. Here's the show. All right. Hey, Troy. It's a new episode of the podcast. I got a question for you. What keeps you up at night?
Okay, so let's see. Can I be honest is a question. I'm looking at my notes.
You're in a safe place. No one is listening to this. You know, It's just a conversation between you and me.
So there's a couple things that keep me up. Is this internal pressure to be successful. So that is can be financial success, can be, emotional success. So that's one thing, you wake up, you're creative, juices are flowing, it wakes you up. The other thing that keeps me up at night is the unknown of how is my farm, our family farm, not my farm. I'm sort of a placeholder.
Yeah.
How is that farm what's that farm gonna look like in 25 years or 50? What's the future? Because it's not clear. And then finally, to be honest, it doesn't keep me up at night, but in the first part of the morning, almost every day, I ask, why? Why did my brother have to leave? I struggling with a blame game, I don't know, again, I hate to I'm angry about, did God take my brother? Did, the doctors didn't prescribe, what is the process?
What could have happened differently that would have changed what happened? I have that in my life as well. You lose somebody and you're like, something, especially when it doesn't feel like there's any explanation. I'm not trying to dissect just from my point of view. I'm not trying to dissect what you're going through. For me, just when you lose somebody who's older and you see it coming, and like grandma's 95 and you can say your goodbyes, it's hard, but and there's a way to cope with losing somebody unexpectedly that is younger than you. My dad's lost both of his younger siblings. We just lost my aunt, Kate's aunt, who is the youngest of six. She's 51 years old.
Yep.
And was Mabel's best friend. And I think about her every day, every single day. And there's no great explanation. There's no what could have changed. There's the blame game for sure of like, what would you have done differently? What could have been done differently by somebody else? There's a million different things that run through your head. And coping with that grief is just hard.
So that's what seems as though those three things are what keep me sort of from finding peace or sleeping. Again, the creative side's good. You're up, you're excited, but then realities come, and then you want to be financially successful, and then you want to see what your toil and the toils of your forefathers, what is that going to look like in 50 years? So I don't know if I'm any different than anybody else. It's just a it's like a process. And when you, like when I can go to sleep and sleep all night, like camping is one of those places where, man, that's freaking awesome. Like I want to make a t-shirt that says, I slept today. Woo-hoo!
Right? I don't know if you meant to do this, but you brought up three items that keep you up at night, right?
Yep.
You have being successful and being driven to be successful, and that definition of success is going to be different for everybody. And so that's today. The problems and things that you can address today that will help you down the path that you wish to go towards. And then there's what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's what's the future of the farm, the finances, the financial future of the farm, how you're going to pass it down, if you're going to be able to afford it, if everything's going to be paid off so you can pass down an asset instead of a liability to that next generation. That's something that keeps everybody up. So you have what you can do today, where you see things going tomorrow, and then the loss of a loved one is the unknown of what happens with after tomorrow. Like, we're just making sense out of losing people, out of what your family and friends are going to go through when we pass away. And the fear of mortality is something that everybody that has to cope with and come to grips with in their own level. And that sums up, some of the three of the major stressors that goes through, whether you're in agriculture, or you're a bank teller, or a gas station attendant, or a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Those things are, I think, something that all keep us all up at night. I can draw three clear examples in my own life where I'm driven by defining success and reaching that and stability. I don't need to be a millionaire. That'd be cool, to like have a private jet. I don't really need a private jet. I think it's wasteful. That was a bad example, but we'll put it this way. I had this conversation with my mechanic the other day. We just put money into the farm truck, and this winter I put about $3,000 into my Honda Pilot, which has almost 200,000 miles in it. And I was talking to her, and I was like, I don't need to be rich. I don't need to buy a new car, but I want to walk into the mechanic and go, here's all the things I need. Let's triage this and pick the red flag issues and one or two orange flag issues, and we're gonna put off the rest. I don't need a new car. I just want to be like, all right, Jen and Andy, fix everything. Just make my old gal work. It's a Honda. It's going to go to 300,000 miles. Yep. And so my definition of success, I've hit in a lot of ways where I've got a great family unit. I have meaningful employment and a job and career that I love. And I just want to get to a place where I don't have to budget my pizza nights. I'm like, well, we've had a pizza night for this month, so we're done. Yeah, right. I want to be like, I want pizza whenever the frig I want pizza.
That's right.
Right. So I'm getting there. That's a goal that I can achieve. And then the second one is, what is the world that I'm going to pass on to my kids that keeps me up at night is the earth and the environment and the world that we live in. We got emotional on this one, Troy. Being a farmer and like going out and lingering and spending time on the land and watching the world happen and grass grow and planting a tree and seeing that grow over time, being on a land long enough to see the how the seasons shift, and you start to notice patterns, and you're more in touch with how nature affects your day-to-day financials and the success of your farm and like all the tangible things that we stress about on kind of a granular level of like paying taxes and doing all that is affected by how nature works. And nature just doesn't care what you're doing today. It's going to just do its thing and you work around it. And then you see the broad spectrum of how nature is actually affected by human impact. And you see how that affects cultures. And, at the end of the day, a lot of our wars and strife and stuff is all about resources. It's humans fighting over resources, which we've done for 10,000 years, more, for a couple million years. And knowing that I now have one daughter and another daughter on the way, what is the world that I'm going to leave to them? And can I look back and say, I couldn't solve all the problems. I can't donate to every charity because I would be poor and I wouldn't be able to pay for that one pizza night. I can't address all of these things, go to every march, go to whatever, be active in all of my local politics, but I can pick an area to focus in and do the best that I can in that area and hope that my area affects as many other areas as possible. And that's why I got into agriculture, is to do my part to get people interested in livestock on grass, because grass, well-managed pasture sequesters 3 times the amount of carbon that a forest does, because you're eating and pooping out, because animals are eating and pooping out grass, which are feeding the microbes, which are then sequestering carbon in the ground. As the grass grows through photosynthesis, it pulls more carbon out of the atmosphere. And if I can give people the gateway drugs of chickens, where they're first interested, they go through that psychological growth of raising and killing another sentient being. If I can make more people do that, then they're in the chickens. Well, then they're like, if I do chickens, I can do pigs. And then you realize that you're buying grain, so you have something that eats grass. And from a stupid chicken tractor book on building a chicken tractor for a hobby, if I can set more families down a path of sequestering carbon to combat greenhouse gas emissions, that is the battle, the long-term goal that I have that keeps me up on what am I leaving for my kids for tomorrow. And then the fear of the unknown at the end, I don't know what's going to happen. And that one I worry about a little less. I struggle with unnecessary loss and what seems like meaningless or fruitless loss. On a personal familial level, out into a broader cultural spectrum, and that stuff really eats away at me. I put up my own personal emotional barriers in certain places, just so that I don't spend all of my time thinking about that, and I try to focus on how I can have a positive impact and make what sense I can out of what seems like, and in most cases is, just meaningless loss. But you brought up 3 very poignant areas that I'm sure as people are listening to this, they're going, no, I can define what keeps me up at night for what I'm struggling with today, what tomorrow might bring, and then what further down the road may or may not bring for me.
So the part of this whole finding balance is, I think I mentioned this before, is how I'm trying to figure out how few cows or whatever in my life do I have to manage, or how many, to allow more camping days. Because it seems like camping and kayaking and spending time with my wife and grandkids and kids out in a park somewhere seems to be relaxing, where I can sleep. And then when you get up and you've had a good night's sleep, you actually become a better person. You're more creative, right? You see things differently. So for everyone struggling with what keeps you up at night, what are the solutions to that? Especially when you're in control type A guy.
Yeah.
I can't, my dad doesn't sleep well at night because he worries about financial stability. He doesn't have as many hobbies maybe as I do. Everyone's got their thing. And again, going back to ag, if there's a lot of people with this issue, again, the solvency at the farm is huge. If you can't sleep and you're insolvent, or, things aren't going well and you can't manage well because you're tired, and the rabbit hole you go down.
Yeah.
How do you get the help that you need? And again, it goes back to the purging, the venting, the finding a place of stability somehow with relationships, with talking, with decision making, resiliency plans, whatever. I'm not full of solutions. I'm just telling you what keeps me up at night. The try is what's important.
I have no magic bullet for anybody. where I'm not going to be able to tell you how to do it for you, but I can break down a little bit, and it's kind of a recap of the last couple shows, how I've managed to sleep at night. Yep. Where I know what is working for me, and some days it works better than others. And this, take from it what you will. One of the problems that I had when I first started, and one of the problems that kind of plagues especially small scale agriculture and a lot of small business owners, is goal setting and then tracking. Tracking, if you aren't comfortable with that mindset, can be tedious, and you don't always see the need for it. And so at the beginning, I set the goals for the life that I wanted to achieve. And I didn't do that immediately out of college. And I ended up in a career, and I thought, this is probably the path I want to go down based off of culturally what was expected of me, young person in America. Go to college, get your student loan debt, go out, struggle in the workforce, get it done, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, blah, 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 American dream. Where I hit a point where I was like, well, that's not my dream. That's another dream. I'm not happy. And so Kate and I had a series of very serious talks on like what we wanted out of life, what really meant stuff, what was meaningful to us. And those talks continued. The freak out moment of this is not my dream, I need a new dream, was the impetus for a 6,000-mile bike ride across the United States for a year. We lived intentionally homeless. We had no end date. We were just wandering. Some days we would wake up and we would go, the sun is rising in the east. That means that direction is west. We're heading east to west. Let's go that way and we'll see where today brings us, like in the most literal way, ambling across the United States looking for something. Right. And through that journey and over time and the development of our relationship and the relationship with others, we set down a series of goals and a framework for decision making to define and create through that definition what we saw as the ideal life. And when we wake up in the morning, we discuss, and when we go to bed and when we wake up in the morning, we discuss, what we did that day, how it made us feel. Are we closer to the goals that we want to have? And there's goals about our kids' education. There's goals about our finances. There's goals about our ambitions for business. Whatever the case may be, you set kind of benchmarks. And I go to sleep better at night knowing now that I'm working towards a goal that I'm holistically behind, and that I have benchmarks of like, I do my 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10-year business plans, and they change. And it's not like, gross, this many dollars. I don't freaking care how much money I make. I care if that money affords me the opportunities that I want. More camping days. You talk about camping days. I want to buy a camper van and an old school bus and retrofit it so that me, Mabel, and the dog can jump in the car, go for trips, because Mabel and I love to drive together and dog loves the car. And we'll go visit farms and shoot content so that I can have it as a business write-off. But then we'll fly Kate out to wherever we are with kid number 2, and then that's like my 5-year goal. And then I have 10-year goals, and if I have something to work towards, and I know that day I've worked closer to get to that goal, or I faced a problem that was a blocker blocking me from that goal, it makes all of my decisions a little bit easier. You have something to work towards. If you're on your farm and you're not sure if you want to be a vegetable farm or a livestock farm, we're trying a little bit of everything. You don't know if you're succeeding or failing because you have no definition of what success or failure is. If you have a goal where, it's not like I want to produce 10,000 chickens. No, it's I want to pay down my debt. I want to be able to feed my family, and I want to be a positive contribution to my community. Does 10,000 chickens get you that? Or does 2 acres of vegetables that are intensively managed? Or does getting out of agriculture and going back to your job as an engineer do that for you? It's the job and the work are a means to an end. And if that end can be part of your job, like I want to live close to nature. I want to have my hands in the soil. I want to work outside. What I do now allows me to do a lot of that stuff. And I was encouraged to have this discussion with a guy I met in the tasting room. He's a friend. His daughter's in Mabel's class. And he started poking at my backstory, and I told him about the bike trip and writing 3 books now and having farm marketing solutions on top of what he knew already of the farm and the brewery and his relationship with it. And he goes, well, you just looked at all the things you wanted to do and then you just built a life around that. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess if you put it that way. Like, I get to shoot video and I get to play with audio and I get to take pretty pictures, but at the same time I get to like work as a mechanic and be outside and train a dog and like all the little things I want to do. I just figured out ways to fit it within what initially was somebody else's dream, you know, our cultural construct of what the path is. And that for me, focusing on, is today awesome? Yes. Repeat. Is today awesome? No. Change. You know, like those are my 2 paths for the day.
It's pretty awesome, man.
I'm trying. Life is a process.
Jeez,
I got a goal.
I wish I had followed your advice. Maybe I'd sleep at night. I guess it's not too old. I'm not too old to change.
No, not at all.
Because we've been in conference season, you know, we're always listening to, well, how do you do this? What kind of tarp do you use? What kind of, how many dollars per acre? And I'm like,
details. They're all details.
You know, I'm kind of like, well, when you get together and network and tell stories about, you know, the journeys, the relationships, that seems more poignant to me. In the production side is a way to get to that, or maybe not. Maybe there's just too much production and not enough life, and back to life balance. And, you know, again, the satisfaction when you wake up in the middle of the night, you know, what's bothering you. Again, some of that is just good stuff, right? You solved the problem at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, you know, whatever fencing issue or something else. And then there's the, you know, the emotional baggage. You can't let something go. Again, maybe there's a storm at night and you don't feel comfortable because your animals are out, or there's many things that keep you up at night. But again, it's a topic that I deem as necessary to have. And I don't know. I have no idea. I don't listen to that many podcasts to know in agriculture. Is that something we double down on? Everyone would have a story to tell, like yourself or my struggles. Would that be beneficial to share, you know, so you can all get a little empathy? You know, if you share it, will it actually help you vent, purge that out of your system? Maybe say, well, this guy here, he got his stuff together. What was that goal thing again? You know, working towards, you know, creating something you want.
There's the main reason why people switch into agriculture. So hitting the demographic that's more prominent these days of people going second, third career, getting into farm, the back to the land movement, the slow food movement, you know, whatever you want to call it. More people are getting into it for the lifestyle than the money. So figuring out the lifestyle, knowing the lifestyle, figuring out exactly what that means, then going back and saying, all right, these are the proper steps I need to take. These are the things I need to do to achieve the lifestyle. And it's selling the lifestyle is what's going to get more people back on the land, so we don't have less than 1% of the population creating the food for the rest of the population, you know? We lost all our farmers to farmers kicking the kids into the city, or the kids leaving to go into the city for a better lifestyle. And then we spent enough time living in cities over the last several decades to go, man, city living's tough and I feel meaningless and I need to go back to the country and get my country on and live that way. And then we lost all the good growing information. Somewhere in there we were like, oh, by the way, we lost all the little details because farmers don't like to write stuff down, right? Except for the few of us who write books. So now we have the heart and the passion are there. And what we need to create is scientifically backed bodies of work supporting organizations like APA and the good organizations that have, like Rodale, who's doing great real science-based experiments. Stop listening to the YouTube homesteaders with garbage information and go to the extension offices who have the details and about the production systems that allow you to achieve that lifestyle. I know I just took a turn with this episode as we're getting towards the end here, but the how-to, the where to go to next is go down and write down on paper and tack it on your wall. You know how many things I've taped to my walls around my house? It drives Kate's nuts. You know, right. And then Mabel, we're like wondering why Mabel tapes things to the wall all over the place. It's because she sees her dad doing it. But like I find something that's inspirational, a quote, an image, I print it out and I tack it out. Here, I'm gonna rip something off. You can see me rip something off my wall right now. This is a Japanese concept for life balance. And it is ugly painter's tape blue on my wall. But I look at it every day and I'm like, balance. What I have in my life has meaning and balance, and I have to work at that. And once you determine what your balance is, you go back and figure out what are the production methods, the steps, the details, the right tarp size that is going to get you the proper net margins for you to afford the fact that you want to go out and just walk in the freaking woods.
Yeah. I believe it's a good conversation to have. I think we've had a long enough conversation about it. I'm glad I've vented a little about it. I'm not sad that I teared up because, again, this is real life, and we need more reality in our perspectives.
It's fine. It's okay to have emotions.
It's and again, we're trying to tickle the topics that maybe someone will be able to, maybe they're going to write something down. Maybe it'll help a little bit, or just say, hey, we're human. This is what we're talking about. If you don't want to see a grown man snibble, shut the thing off and move on to
right.
What kind of tarp do I need for a chicken tractor?
Yeah. And then when you get the wrong tarp, because you cheaped out and you didn't pay enough money and all your chickens die and you miss a check to your bills and then you're sniveling yourself, come back. We'll be here. We'll be waiting for you.
Yeah.
Because the Growing Farms podcast, there's enough information about how to grow and create things. And we create YouTube videos around that. We have how-to production on our kind of thing here with Farm Marketing Solutions and a more broad sense. It's covered.
Yeah.
What I want to focus on and what we have been focusing on is what keeps people up at night, what makes it hard, and then how do you get through it? Because we're a community. Community supported agriculture is not just a marketing technique for chicken and vegetables. It is a lifestyle. It is an ethos that should be pervasive in the slow food movement, where you don't get into farming to grow all your own food. Your community grows all your own food. I raise chickens and pigs and hops and beer. My friend does grass-fed beef. My other friends do vegetables. Dan Carr does honey. I have friends who grow all these other things. And together as a community, we support that total agricultural base that's going to give us the resiliency that when the lights go out, I still have something to eat.
Good. Love
Boom.
You, man.
Mic drop. You're the best, Troy. These season 2 on fire. On fire.
Okay. Cut.
And snap recording.
And that's it for this episode of the Growing Farms podcast. If you want to follow along, you can subscribe wherever you catch podcasts or go to farmmarketingsolutions.com, and there's a big button on the homepage that will take you exactly where you need to go. If it's okay with you, I would like to share a quick story from my life outside of podcasting and making YouTube videos. I know this is the Growing Farms podcast, but I had something happen recently that I really wanted to share with you guys. I was talking to a dear friend of mine the other day who happens to be a lot of great things. But to list a few, she's a farmer, an entrepreneur, and, as you may have guessed, a woman. She was going through a few major life events while setting up her farm season this year, and she reached out to say that she, as a female entrepreneur, she's had her cry, and now she can get down to work. That she can keep it together 360 days a year, but there are those times where you need to just let the tears flow. And I found it odd, and I told her this, I found it odd that she had to specify that she was a woman. Why was it relevant that she was a female entrepreneur, not just an entrepreneur? I replied with the fact that I'm tough as nails, though I used kind of more vulgar language than that. And I cry several times a year as well. We show and share emotion because we are human. The relationships we have with the people around us and the emotional connections we have to our work, our farms, our friends, and our communities are what makes us feel alive. And I just wanted to say that whether you are a woman or a man, an adult or a child, it is okay to feel overwhelmed at times. And it is perfectly okay, perfectly acceptable to feel on top of the world. Agriculture, entrepreneurship, parenting, friendship are just some of the things that make life worth living. And no matter who you are, there will be good times and there will be bad times, and everybody goes through it. And that in and of itself puts us all on an equal playing field. For now, I hope you have a great week, and we'll be back in your ears with a new episode next Thursday where we talk about, I don't know, something new, something great, something insightful about our world and agriculture. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and until next time, I will see you out in the field.